Most people hear save $1,000 and immediately dismiss it. Too small. Won't solve anything. Why bother? And that's exactly why most people stay broke. Not because they don't earn enough, not because they're lazy, but because they've convinced themselves the boring stuff doesn't matter. Here's what they don't understand. This rule isn't about the money, it's about breaking a cycle. $1,000 won't make you rich, but it will give you something more valuable than wealth: control. Today we're talking about the $1,000 rule. It's the first step of Dave Ramsey's baby step system, and it's the rule most people skip because it sounds too simple to work. This isn't exciting, that's why it works. Let's start with reality. More than 78% of American workers live paycheck to paycheck, not because they're irresponsible, not because they don't work hard enough, but because there's zero margin for error. You know what that feels like. One car repair, one medical bill, one water heater that dies on a Sunday night, and suddenly the credit card comes out again. I've seen this exact situation play out more times than I can count. Someone gets hit with a $600 repair. No cash. It goes on the card. 3 months later, the balance is still there. Now it's $740, not because the repair was expensive, but because there was no buffer. That's how small emergencies quietly turn into long-term debt. Not overnight, slowly, invisibly. The math is simple. Money doesn't disappear. I guess you spend it. But when you have no buffer, every small problem becomes a financial crisis. And when every crisis becomes debt, life feels permanently unstable. This isn't really a money problem, it's a lack of breathing room. And when people hear paycheck to paycheck, they picture someone totally broke. Like, that's not always it. A lot of people make decent money. The problem is they have no shock absorbers. Every bump in the road damages the car. The $1,000 fund is shock absorption, nothing more. But it changes everything. There are actually two kinds of paycheck to paycheck. The first is the obvious one. Income is too low and expenses are pure survival. That's real and it's hard. The second is sneakier. Income is decent, but the money is already promised. Lifestyle got ahead of reality. Car payment, subscriptions, little monthly commitments that quietly stack up. Different reasons, same outcome, no margin. Think about it. You get paid. Bills come out. Rent, insurance, groceries, gas, and by the middle of the month, you're checking your bank balance before buying coffee. Then something breaks. Always something. And you have two options: charge it or don't fix it. Either way, you lose. The credit card balance grows, or the problem gets worse and costs more later. The stress doesn't come from being poor, it comes from having no options. That's what paycheck to paycheck actually means. Not that you're broke, but that you're trapped. Debt creates chronic stress that affects mental health, relationships, and even physical well-being. The weight of it sits on your chest at night. You make decisions based on panic instead of logic. You avoid opening bills. You fight with your spouse about money. You feel like you're failing. And the worst part, you start believing this is just how life is. It's not. The $1,000 rule is this: save $1,000 and don't touch it unless something actually breaks. Not for vacations, not for sales, not for "I deserve this." It's a starter emergency fund designed to catch small emergencies so you don't go deeper into debt. It sits in a basic savings account doing nothing except existing. It doesn't earn interest, it doesn't grow wealth, it doesn't make you feel rich. It does one thing: it stops small problems from becoming financial disasters. Let me be clear about what this is and what it isn't. What it is: a buffer between you and panic. Insurance against Murphy's Law. The first step toward financial stability. A psychological reset button. What it isn't: your retirement fund, an investment strategy, enough money for every possible emergency. The finish line. Dave Ramsey himself admits it was never intended to be enough. $1,000 is not enough. And by the way, $2,000 is not enough. So why this number? Because it covers most of the emergencies that derail people. A car alternator, a broken phone, an urgent care visit, a few new tires. These are the things that send people spiraling into debt. The original plan didn't even include this step. It was just get out of debt. But people would have a $350 car repair with no money saved, get frustrated, and quit the entire process. That's when Ramsey added the $1,000 buffer. Not because it's mathematically perfect, but because it works psychologically. This rule exists to keep you in the game. And a quick reality check. This is the part where the internet will try to be clever. People will tell you the better move is investing, optimizing, finding the perfect strategy. Sounds smart, fails in real life. You can't optimize chaos. You stabilize first, then you optimize. Most people hear about the $1,000 rule and immediately argue against it. I've heard every objection. $1,000 isn't enough. Correct. That's not the point. What about rent? What about a big medical bill? You're skipping ahead. I should save 3 months of expenses first. Also correct. Also not the point. Here's the problem with these objections. They sound smart, but they lead to doing nothing. People want the perfect system, the perfect amount, the perfect plan before they start. So they never start. And then they wonder why money always feels chaotic. I'm not judging you, I'm judging the decision. Perfection is the enemy of progress. You don't need to solve every possible problem today. You need to solve the problem in front of you, which is that you have no buffer at all. The $1,000 emergency fund lights a fire under you and keeps you motivated to pay off debt faster. Having only $1,000 available creates urgency. You don't want to stay here long, and that's exactly the point. Some people skip this step and jump straight to debt payoff. Bad move. Without an emergency fund, when something unexpected happens, you'll either take on more debt or abandon your debt payoff plan entirely. The $1,000 rule isn't about being cautious, it's about being strategic. You're building the foundation for everything else. Yeah. And yes, later the goal is bigger, 3 to 6 months of expenses. That's real security. But you don't jump to the roof before you build the foundation. You build the first layer, then you keep going. Here are the mistakes that keep people stuck. 1, they wait for the perfect month to start. That month doesn't exist. 2, they treat the emergency fund like a suggestion instead of a rule. 3, they rely on willpower instead of automation. Willpower is unreliable, systems are reliable. 4, they confuse being busy with making progress. You can watch money videos for 10 hours and still be broke. Knowledge isn't action. The boring stuff only works when you do it. This rule works because it changes your brain, not your bank account. Money problems are rarely math problems. They're behavior problems, and behavior is driven by psychology, not spreadsheets. Completing the $1,000 emergency fund creates immediate behavior change and builds momentum through psychological success. Here's what actually happens when you save that first $1,000. First, your brain relaxes. For the first time in a long time, you're not one problem away from disaster. That constant background anxiety, it fades. Not completely, but enough. You stop making desperate decisions. You stop reactively reaching for credit cards. You think before you spend because you know you have options. Relief isn't just a feeling, it changes your behavior. Second, you prove to yourself that you can do this. Most people don't believe they can save money. They've tried before and failed. They assume they're just bad with money. Building that first 1,000 proves them wrong. Not with words, but with results. You look at the account and you see evidence. And evidence is stronger than motivation. Motivation fades, evidence stays. Third, you start thinking differently about emergencies. Before, every emergency felt like proof you'd never get ahead, like the universe was against you. Why bother trying? Yeah, after, emergencies become problems you can handle. Not fun problems, but manageable ones. That changes your entire relationship with money. Fourth, you develop the habit of saving. Getting to $1,000 forces you to make real changes. You budget differently, you cut expenses, you find side income. You prioritize. These aren't just tactics, they're habits, and habits compound. Big financial plans feel inspiring. Small financial wins feel real. And real wins change behavior. That's why this works. You don't need belief, you need evidence. The account balance becomes evidence. The emotional shift is the entire point. This step prevents analysis paralysis. A $1,000 goal feels achievable, while saving 3 to 6 months of expenses feels overwhelming. Think about someone drowning. You don't throw them a swimming lesson, you throw them a life preserver first. The $1,000 rule is that life preserver. It gives you enough stability to start thinking clearly, to make a plan, to actually follow through instead of constantly firefighting. Do the boring stuff, it works. This part doesn't require apps, fancy systems, or complicated strategies. You need 3 things: a safe place for the money, a plan to save it, and the discipline to leave it alone. Where to keep it? A basic savings account? That's it. Nothing fancy. No high yield accounts, no investments, no crypto. You want it accessible, but not too accessible. Separate from your checking account so you don't accidentally spend it, but available if you actually need it. Online savings accounts work well. No fees, no minimum balance, no temptation to grab cash when you're at an ATM. How much per paycheck? This depends on your situation. $50, $100, $200? Pick a number you can actually sustain. Not the amount that sounds impressive, the amount you can do every single paycheck without failing. Consistency beats speed. If you can only do $50 a paycheck, that's $1,000 in 20 paychecks. If you get paid twice a month, that's 10 months. Not fast, but certain. If you want a simple plan, use 3 buckets per paycheck. First bucket, bills you must pay to stay afloat. Second bucket, food, gas, basic life. Third bucket, the $1,000 fund. And until that fund is built, the third bucket comes before fun money. Not because you don't deserve fun, you do, but you deserve stability more. Fun without stability turns into regret, and regret is expensive. Even if the third bucket is small, $25, $50, it still counts. You're not trying to win in one paycheck. You're trying to stop losing every month. And yes, the ideal plan is about a month by budgeting, cutting expenses, and selling things you don't need. But if it takes longer, that's fine. The point is finishing, not impressing anyone. Make it automatic. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking to your savings on payday before you see the money, before you spend it on something else. Making automatic transfers removes opportunities for emotions to interfere with your plan. You can't spend what you don't see. Find extra money. This is where you get creative. Cut one subscription you barely use, pack lunch instead of eating out twice a week, sell stuff sitting in your closet. Pick up one extra shift, skip the expensive coffee 4 days a week. When people hear cut expenses, they imagine living on rice and sadness. That's not what I mean. Most budgets don't leak from big dramatic purchases. They leak from small, boring habits that don't feel like spending because they're familiar. Start with the stuff you won't remember in 30 days. One subscription you barely use, 2 takeout meals a week, convenience store drinks, delivery fees, little upgrades you say yes to because you're tired. You don't need to cut everything. You need to cut enough to create oxygen. I'm not judging you. I'm judging the decision. If your money can't breathe, you can't breathe. And a few boring cuts can buy you a lot of peace. These aren't sacrifices, they're trades. You're trading temporary convenience for permanent stability. Track your progress. Visual tracking tools, like a simple thermometer chart, help maintain motivation by showing concrete progress. Use a simple tracker. Every time you add money to your emergency fund, mark it. Watch the number grow. Small wins matter. what to expect. The first $100 feels slow, the next 200 feel impossible. Then suddenly you hit 500 and realize you're halfway there. By the time you reach 800, you can taste it. The last 200 come faster than the first 200 because momentum is real. And then one day you log in and see $1,000 and you feel something you haven't felt in years, relief. Not because you're rich, but because you're not stuck. And one warning, because people mess this part up, don't turn this into a casual spending fund. Emergencies are unexpected, necessary, and urgent. A TV on sale is not an emergency. A weekend trip is not an emergency. If you treat this casually, it stops working. An emergency has 3 rules. It's unexpected, it's necessary, and it's time sensitive. Unexpected means you didn't plan for it. Necessary means your life keeps functioning because you pay it. Time sensitive means waiting makes it worse. That's it. If it fails any of those, it's not an emergency. Car repair that stops you from getting to work, emergency. ER copay, emergency. Rent because you overspent on the weekend, not an emergency. A sale at Target, definitely not an emergency. But I really want it is not an emergency. It's a feeling, and feelings are expensive. And another quick warning, if you use this fund for non-emergencies, you don't just lose the money, you lose momentum. You teach your brain that your plan is optional. And once your plan is optional, life takes over. Once you complete baby step 1, you move to baby step 2. Paying off all non-mortgage debt using the debt snowball method. This is where real progress starts. You have a buffer. You're not going to panic at the first hiccup. Now you can focus on killing debt without constantly derailing. After the debt is gone, baby step 3 is building a fully funded emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. That's when you go from stable to secure. But none of that happens without this first step. The $1,000 rule isn't impressive. It doesn't make a good Instagram post. Your friends won't think you're smart for doing it. And that's exactly why most people skip it. They're looking for the exciting move, the clever hack, the one weird trick. Meanwhile, boring wins every single time. You want to know the secret to building wealth? There isn't one. It's just this. Do the unsexy stuff consistently until it compounds. Save the buffer, kill the debt, build the savings. Invest for decades. That's it. Like, no shortcuts, no secrets, just patience and discipline. And next episode, we're going to talk about what to do right after this step. How to run a paycheck routine that actually works, and how to stop money from vanishing the moment it hits your account. Because most people don't need a complicated budget. They need a simple routine they can repeat when life gets messy. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to be consistent. That's how normal people win with money. If you came here hoping I'd tell you how to get rich quick, you're in the wrong place. If you came here hoping I'd validate your excuses, I also wrong place. But if you came here because you're tired of feeling stressed about money, tired of the paycheck to paycheck cycle, tired of feeling like you're failing, then you're exactly where you need to be. This channel isn't about hype. It's not about motivation. It's not about making you feel good while nothing changes. It's about giving you the boring, practical rules that actually work when you follow them. Rules that helped thousands of people get out of debt and build real financial stability. The $1,000 rule is step 1. It's small. It's achievable. It's not impressive. It's also the difference between staying trapped and starting to build something real. So here's what you do next. Pick a number you can save per paycheck. Set up automatic transfers. Find a few small expenses to cut and start. Not tomorrow, today. Do the boring stuff. It works. And one more thing, motivation fades. Structure stays. So don't wait until you feel ready. Build the system. Let the system carry you. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. So build a system that makes the right decision easier than the wrong one. If you want more practical money rules that won't waste your time, subscribe. We're building a library of real financial advice. No fluff, just the stuff that actually matters. I'm Frank. See you next time.